million lights, they flicker there. A million hearts beat quicker there. No skies are gray on the great wide way, 'cause that's the Broadway melody.
Hi, thanks for clicking in. I'm Jason Crawford Samuel,
And I'm Patrick J. Golden.
and this is Backstage Banter. For this episode of Backstage Banter, we are going to be looking at Cockpit and Court Summer Theater's presentation of Monty Python's Spamalot, with a book and lyrics by Eric Idle, and music by John DePrez and Eric Idle. This particular production is directed by Laurie Stedman-Starkey, with musical direction by R. Christopher Rose, and is choreographed by Amanda Dixon. Now, Monty Python's Spamalot premiered on Broadway in 2005, and that same year, it was nominated for 14 Tony Awards, and won 3, including Best Musical, which is a big one, and Best Performance by a Featured Actress for Sarah Ramirez, who was the Lady in the Lake, and Best Direction of a Musical by Mike Nichols. Now, I myself was familiar with Monty Python. I had heard about it, but admittedly, I'd never seen any of these movies, and I had never seen Spamalot. Were you familiar with Monty Python?
Familiar, yes, and I had seen some movies. I had seen Life of Brian and Monty Python and The Holy Grail, but it's been years since I've seen them, and this is my first time seeing Spamalot too, so.
And it actually says, and I quote, that Monty Python's Spamalot is a new musical lovingly ripped off from the motion picture Monty Python and the Holy Grail. However, you were mentioning that there are also some parts from another Monty Python movie.
The one song, Bright Side of Life, which I think is one of Monty Python's most well-known songs, period. I'm fairly certain that's from Life of Brian. Now, it's been years since I've seen either movie, but I'm pretty sure that's Life of Brian.
Well, we'll check on that. We'll do some fact checking on that. Alright, so having not seen any of the movies, and having never seen Monty Python's Spamalot, I like to think that I went in with no preconceived notions. But in general, I very much enjoyed this production. I thought this was a well-casted, well-directed, and well-choreographed production. Laurie Stedman-Starkey, I believe I saw in her bio that she had directed this before. But I think she did a great job with capturing that, what do you call it, what would you do, silly kind of comedy that Monty Python is known for. Again, I'm familiar with some jokes and some quotes from Monty Python, but I think, having seen some clips on YouTube and online and whatnot, I think she captured all of those nuances of that kind of zany comedy very well. What do you think in general?
I thought she did a very great job. One thing I always liked about Monty Python, and these comedy troupes that make it big, they're a specific type of comedy. I guess it's more like, I don't want to say sophisticated silliness, but it's like it's literally taking things, it's so serious and then taking it out of it. Like the very character of King Arthur, who is on this quest, King of the Britons, and no one cares whatsoever. Every other character, I think that's part of the comedies. No one takes him seriously for the most part, except the Knights of the Round.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when it comes from over the pond, there is a certain sophistication to their comedy anyway. It's very dry humor, but hilarious when you break it down and get down to the joke of what it is. They don't seem to take themselves very seriously, and that's, I think, the funny part about the Monty Python troupe. Getting into the set real quickly, Michael Rosinski was the set designer, and it has become the norm, I think, or a lot of larger theaters will rent sets from bigger companies, what have you. It was refreshing to see that Michael Rosinski actually designed and created the sets. It's an original set from scratch with his crew and the Cockpit crew, what have you. And it was very impressive. I thought it was a large set. The focal point was this very large 2-story castle, and everything seemed to work together. I mean, it didn't hinder the action, the story. Didn't take away from, but it added to. And even the little set pieces, everything was created. I think they borrowed a few set pieces here and there. But all in all, it was an original, unique set, which I think is very refreshing for community theater. The larger theaters, anyway. What did you think?
No, it was great. Especially the part of the show where God comes into play. The two giant, enormous feet that come down from the top and pretty much
huge
the
feet.
whole height of the stage minus a couple feet. But they're huge and handmade.
Yes.
You know, not rented and handmade, cut, painted.
I imagine they'll be sitting in the back of the shop for quite a long time to see
yeah.
these 2 feet sticking out from somewhere.
I don't think they fold up.
Yeah, I don't think they do either. All right, so getting into some of the numbers, some of the performances, there were some I believe that are very popular or very people might be very familiar with it, like you mentioned earlier, Bright Side of Life. I'm Not Dead Yet is a huge bit for Monty Python, and I want to say there's a couple of others on here that might be, again, you might be more familiar with. Again, I'm not very familiar with the movies, and I plan on seeing these though now after having seen Monty Python's Spamalot. But some of the characters in here, as you mentioned, were King Arthur. There's Patsy, the poor, I don't know, page of King Arthur that goes around following him around. There are apparently no horses, but they like the sound of horses, so
The coconuts.
the coconuts come into play. They're skipping around, and most of them are. You see Sir Robin, Sir Lancelot. Of course, you can't have the story, which I believe it's loosely based on the story of Camelot, of course. So you have Sir Lancelot, Not Dead Fred, Sir Galahad, Sir Belvedere, Lady of the Lake, and so on and so forth. But to get down to a few of the highlights, as I like to call them, Gary Dieter played Patsy. And I believe that's all he played. Patsy, Mayor Finland, and Guard 2. But Patsy was his main role. Gary Dieter was certainly one of the highlights of this production. He carried a lot of the scenes that he was in. He's very funny. He's a triple threat. He tap danced like there's no tomorrow,
Right.
which is hard to find these days. You can, but it's hard to find, especially a male tap dancer.
Mm-hmm.
But he dances, he sings, and he's a very, very funny actor. His comedic timing is brilliant. I thought he did a bang-up job. What do you think?
I completely agree with that. I've been lucky enough to see Gary Dieter in a couple things, and he's always been good. But I think this was one of his best roles I've seen him in.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, hands down, really good. Sir Robin is played by Jeff Birch, who was also another Baltimore theater veteran. I've done a couple things with him. He's a stable. I think he started. His bio stated he started with Cockpit about 40 years ago. So pretty much when Cockpit started coming around. Very, very funny actor. Again, his comedic timing was on point. Plays a very interesting character, Sir Robin, who I believe has an affinity for the Broadway show, the musical theater, and very flamboyant character. But very, very good job in that. Sir Lancelot, who was played by Steve Flickinger. I thought he did a really good job too. It's not the Sir Lancelot that you might be familiar with, but I liked his voice. I can't really put why, like his speaking voice. It's very clear. I can understand every word he was saying, and he had this certain timbre to his voice that it was funny. I mean, he made the character very funny, very, very funny. And this is a comedy, so of course everything's going to be funny. But he did a really, really good job with this character, and the little twist in the end with his character and another character that comes on. But I think Steve Flickinger did a very, very good job. Not Dead Fred was played by Stanton Zacher, and though it's not a huge part, from what I understand, I'm Not Dead Yet, that whole bit is one of the bits I was familiar with from Monty Python, and has seen the clips and whatnot. And what's his name? Stanton Zacher, I think, hit the nail on the head with that. I mean, just the way that he said, "I'm not dead yet." He had it down perfectly, and it was really funny. And there's a whole number called "I'm Not Dead Yet," and I'll get into the ensemble and everything comes out with that, but I'll get into that in a minute. but I think he did a really good job. He was another highlight of this one. And Lady of the Lake, one of the only big female roles. What did you think of Lady of the Lake? That is played by Eileen Keenan.
I thought she was great. She has a very lovely and big voice.
Very big voice.
She can definitely fill up a room. And there were parts where it did sound like she was running out of breath, but it was also, it looked like she was running off stage, getting to a new spot, getting a new costume on, and showing back up all within 50 seconds.
Yeah.
So that would knock anyone's breath out too. And she's a belter too, so all those loud notes she had putting out, it was.
And yeah, and I would agree with that. She's a beautiful belt. I don't think she may not have even needed a microphone. You probably would have heard her across the street from the theater. But because of that being out of breath, there were quite a few times that maybe, with maybe different blocking, I don't know, she may have lost a couple notes without that breath support there. So there were a couple times where she may have been pitchy, but then this was opening night as well, opening night. So there maybe some things were still being ironed out. I think she did a great job in general. But just watching the tone and the pitch every now and again, there were some issues there. But otherwise, overall, I think she did great. And I also think along with Gary Dieter as Patsy, Sir Galahad was played by David Jennings. I think this guy knocked it out of the ballpark. He is, I believe, his bio said that he is a Helen Hayes Award winner, which is like a regional theater kind of award that goes on. And for playing actually Lancelot in a production of Spamalot. But in this production, he was Sir Galahad. Beautiful voice, great acting, held up with the dances. He was another triple threat along with Gary Dieter. I think he did a bang-up job. Anyone in particular or anything that you'd like to talk about in their performance?
Well, just to run through some of the other nights around, or some ones you brought up, just things. Sir Robin, the one that had an affinity to musical theater.
Jeff Birch.
One thing I liked about him was, along with his comedic timing, we were sitting towards the back of the theater, and his facial expressions were so very clear from all the way in the back. That just 1,000 times that's something very hard to do, and it was perfect.
It adds multitudes to the character.
Yes, it does.
It does, yes.
What are you talking about? Lancelot's voice. I'm sorry, what was his name? Steve?
Yes, Steve Flickinger.
His voice, it was. Now, again, I can't speak for the man now. I don't know the heights of everyone's on the stage, but Lancelot, in your head, you have this very big, brave, kind of going into battle dude. And from my point of view, he seemed kind of short, voice a little on the higher side, which I liked the, I guess, ironic flip to the character.
Yeah.
It was opposite what you think. And kind of attitude like a little jerk. I mean, he was a nice guy, but it was like a tough guy attitude that you see in a short person,
right,
not stereotypically.
exactly.
So that added a lot to the character. And Galahad, my God, hysterical. Just his quick character change from before he was a knight to when he became a knight, and he became sophisticated, hysterical.
Yeah, a lot of these actors play multiple parts. So, and one more I'd like to mention would be Chip Meister, who was very much a Baltimore community theater veteran. He played Sir Belvedere, Dennis's mother, and Concord. As Dennis's mother, he was absolutely hilarious. Dennis ends up being Sir Galahad, and the character calls herself Mrs. Galahad. So, but for some reason, Men in Drag to this day is still funny on stage, and he hit the nail on the head with that one. Which brings us to rounding out the cast of Arthur, who is the main character. One of the main characters, I'm sorry. And Arthur was played by Phil Gallagher, who, incidentally, is actually from across the pond, we learned. And in his bio, he states that he has never done musical theater. And this is his first musical theater show, and good or bad, it showed. Unfortunately, he did a good job. Acting-wise, I mean, he had the accent, of course. But singing, dancing, it is a big musical. I think he fell a little flat, unfortunately. Just a little. He held his own for being his first musical. I will give him that. But all in all, he was up against some powerhouses. David Jennings, Gary Dieter, you know. So to be up against those guys in your first musical, it's tough. And again, he held his own, but again, just fell a little flat in certain aspects. What do you think?
Regarding Arthur, that's you hit the nail on the head. He like it just showed. It did. That was his first time.
His inexperience showed through.
Yes. Thankfully, Gary Dieter was there. I think kind of helped him up, always being by his side.
Right.
Kind of I don't know how to say it. Pushed him to meet that level with the rest of them. But I mean, it was good. You could tell he definitely did take the direction well. He knew how to listen well. And I will say, for being
good actor.
Yes, he did not look awkward on the stage.
No, that is one thing. For being his first time, he did not look awkward. He seemed very comfortable.
Yes.
He may not have been necessarily up to par in singing and dancing as the rest of the cast, but he did not look uncomfortable. So I will give him that much. And that's important. It is very important. But he even says in his bio that I think it's some kind of quote that he says, his colleagues and friends had told him many times that he can't sing and dance, especially not at the same time. And, well, I mean, I'm going to have to agree with him on that one. But who knows? I hope he had a good time. I had a good time. So, you know, I'm sure the cast had a good time with him. And I hope, you know, I'm glad that he stepped out of a comfort zone to do a musical. So, you know, good job, Phil. Hope to see more. And the ensemble to round this out. Ensemble was pretty fantastic. The choreography was really good, I will say.
Yes.
The choreography was very good. It fit, it was appropriate for this show. And the female ensemble, spot on.
Out of the park.
Yes, spot on. The male ensemble, there were a few issues here and there. It was challenging, there's a few issues, but the male ensemble and the female, you know, they're playing 10,000 different roles in this. But the male ensemble, you know, looked every now and again, maybe looked a little overwhelmed, I think is the word I'm looking for. Whereas the female ensemble, you know, they had it on. But altogether, it was a very tight ensemble. The choreography was tight, I will give it that. It wasn't sloppy at all, and the energy level was up the whole time. This ensemble was given 110%, so I really did appreciate that. Good job all around. Anything else on that?
No, Amanda Dixon did a phenomenal job with them. And like you said, the female ensemble, especially with Livy the Lake being like the main female role. Actually, I think really the only female role, because even Dennis's mom is played by a guy in drag. But so you have that main female role, and then you have the female ensemble, and they made it their own. They stuck out.
Yeah.
Both Amanda Dixon's choreography and just their presence on stage. They weren't worried about being ensemble because they definitely stuck out like any other lead or featured part.
Right. Well, and some final thoughts on Cockpit and Court's production of Monty Python Spamalot. I was pleasantly surprised. Again, I'd never seen it. I thought it was a great production, and I suggest you go see it. Monty Python's Spamalot is playing again until July 31st at CCBC, the Essex campus, and you can get tickets by calling 443-840-ARTS, A-R-T-S, or you can check them out online at ccbc.edu/cockpit. So, get your tickets, go see the show. It's running for a couple more weekends, and hopefully you will enjoy it as much as I did. Any other final thoughts?
I just love the Monty Python movies. I've always wanted to see Spamalot. I finally got to, and I wasn't disappointed.
Good. Go see it. You'll be happy you did. So, thank you very much for joining us here on Backstage Banter, and until next time, have a great day.
Business like show, business like no business I know. Everything about it is appealing, everything the traffic will allow. Nowhere can you get that happy feeling when you are stealing that extra bow. There's no people like show people, they smile when they are low. Even with a turkey that you know of gold, you may be stranded out in the cold. wouldn't trade it for a sack of gold. Let's go on with the show. No business like show business like no business I know. Traveling through the country would be thrilling.